I was telling Spike before you hopped in, I was out last night and I was walking around and I saw a good amount of people in like wedding attire in Center City. I was like, am I going to run into Mike right now? I didn't know when it was.
That would have been fun. No, the wedding was Friday night. It was lovely. My buddy officiated and had to make an announcement at the beginning saying, hey, like, don't put your phones away. Don't watch the Phillies for now. We'll be able to watch it after the ceremony, whatever. No one listened to that. And then as the groom was walking down the aisle, Hoskins homered. And then as the bride was walking down the aisle, Bryce homered. And I was communicating that to my buddy officiating as he was officiating. And he was grateful.
How was your, what was the form of communication that you were relaying this to him?
Big eyes.
Okay.
Big eyes and a number and this.
Okay. Nice.
That's cool. What an experience.
Nice to remember.
Yeah, for real.
CJ, as the producer, are you worried about Mike's little bit of glitchiness that he visually is appearing? I'm not too worried about the video. I'm more worried about the audio as a whole.
No, I think StreamYard normally, like there's so much you can do
right
with this. So I think
okay,
generally they will try to optimize it to be okay live.
Okay.
And then it'll be
fix it for okay.
Like Kate's was almost like on a dial that every 20 minutes she would freeze for like 7 seconds.
Yeah,
like
we would all just I could see all of us going like
oh man,
yeah,
come on,
and then she would come back. Yeah,
but it was almost on the minute, 20 minutes apart. It happened 3 times in that pod, but she sounded and looked fine like every other part of it. So
CJ, speaking of weddings, we had at a lottery party, man, I wish I remembered their name. I think they were like Irish or something. We had a couple get married and then come immediately to the lottery party. Not the wedding, just like a couple showed up in their tux and wedding dress. I have a picture with Rebel and them at the lottery party, which was funny.
I wonder if that was like both on their own doing or if like the husband was like, come on, like let's
go. They both seem pretty into it. I mean, boy, that's ballsy. If you have to convince the other person to do that, like that seems like only something that you can do if you both want to do it, or you're really digging yourself a years-long hole to get out of.
No, yeah, that's a weddings off situation.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, if we don't agree on this, then that's probably indicative of
right.
We're not supposed to be with each other.
I meant to put the Zach Lowe bark on the board. All right, whatever. Let's go. Sunday morning. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is proudly presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS. By the way, we'll have a same game parlay for Tuesday night's Sixers game. They're working on it now. And brought to you by Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of The Process at processrealtor.com. Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. And Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, here we are. We have finally arrived. Another season of Sixers basketball and Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcasts about Sixers basketball. So this will be our season preview episode. We'll do predictions for the Sixers, for the rest of the NBA, some over-unders. As well, Matisse Thybulle is, quote, in negotiations for a rookie contract extension. Paul Reed's contract is guaranteed. 2 Sixers are no longer on the Sixers. Daryl Morey could have told us while he was on the pod. As well, Ben Simmons says he never talked to Joel Embiid and can't wait to play in Philadelphia. We have 1 week, less than 1 week, to raise how much? $1,770 to hit our goal of $16,000 for Rights to Ricky Sanchez's Bark in the Park team to benefit Providence Animal Center. Hope to see you at Rose Tree Park. If you can spare any to get us to the goal, I would love to get to the goal. We got to 15,000 last year. I would love to get to 16,000 this year. You can go to rightstoRickySanchez.com to find a place to donate. Thank you to our sponsors, Mortgage CS, LL Pavorsky Jewelers, Body Bio Briggs Auction, and DraftKings Sportsbook. I did mention Kinetic Skateboarding. 2 things about Kinetic. First of all, in obviously direct relation to yesterday, though they did have these alive already, the Phillies colored Kinetic t-shirts that they have available. I think they might have a hoodie too, but the t-shirts are awesome. They have the baby blue, the maroon, just like fantastic. You can see what a great color combo that is on its own when you look at them, not with the Phillies logo, with the Kinetic logo, but they have them available right now at kineticskateboarding.com. And today you can still enter the raffle for the Paisley Nike Dunks, which are fucking really cool. You can see on their Instagram and their Twitter right now. If you go to kineticskateboarding.com, please use promo code Dave Silver for 9.1% off your first order. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Wow, here we are. Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy doing the podcast, I believe from, are you in Bucks County right now? Yes, Mike Levin?
I think this is Bucks County. Yes.
Yeah. In the area, on the East Coast.
Here we are. The prodigal son returns and then leaves very quickly.
How many times do you
I know you don't want to talk about the Phillies, but ridiculous that the Phillies made a conference finals before the Sixers.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, they hadn't been to the playoffs in over a decade, and somehow they're in the conference finals. And we've been doing this podcast almost as long as the Phillies have not been in the playoffs.
Yes. This essentially was a Phillies playoff drought podcast.
It is amazing.
It's over.
Completely
I'm happy about it,
mismanaged the entire thing, by the way. The Phillies, like, for years, mismanaged everything. Did, like, everything wrong.
Everything wrong.
And then somehow, maybe we should boot out Darryl and get Dave Dombrowski. Maybe that should be the move.
I want to say just one thing to relate it to the Sixers.
Yeah.
Because, like, as much as it feels like we're playing with house money with the Phils, and we are, and it's great.
For sure.
And I love it. And I'm definitely going to try to go to a game in San Diego, because how can I not? You don't like, it's not assumed that this chance is going to come back again. Like,
right.
Think about like the Hawks or like the Bengals. I'm going between sports here. Like, there's a ton of teams that like that have a magical run that like peak a little too soon or unexpectedly, and then you assume like, okay, it's gonna happen for a number of years after that, and it's just not often or even rarely ever the case. Like, hopefully the Phillies will be good for a long time after this. They should be paying like they're going to be, but we can't just be like, oh, it's going to happen next year. And as I try to like manipulate the situation to be like, well, maybe this is perfect to just get there, and then next year they get past it. But it's just like, you got to strike while it's hot, and you got to keep it going. And I want another one.
By the way, that's sort of a Dombrowski thing, is to like just come in and like, let's go for it right now, and and figure out the rest later, is sort of has been his deal. Like, let's spend a bunch of money, make a bunch of trades, and see what they can do.
Unbelievable. And it's so validating that both Brandon Marsh and Noah Syndergaard have a very big role in contributing to a series win. Like,
it
what
is
a delight.
Now, obviously, I can hear Darryl complaining right now. Like, it's different in basketball than it is in baseball, in that there's far more randomness in baseball, in that I don't even think you could come up with a year where, the Astros got to the LCS, but that like every other best team in basketball doesn't make the conference finals, the way that it happened in baseball this year. There's far more randomness. All that said,
Atlanta the other day, the Hawks.
The Hawks. No. I'm saying that when the that the conference finals is almost all of the teams that don't make it. You know what I'm saying? Like that it seems like most of the teams here, and especially if Cleveland ends up winning, whatever. But your point is absolutely salient, even though the sports are different. You don't know if you'll ever get back there again. So if you have a chance, you might as well go for it, which I think, to Daryl's credit, he has said before, and which is why he prioritized last year, is, hey, we might be able to do it this year, so we might as well try to do it this year, but it is definitely a more delicate balance in basketball, in that it is certainly more important that you're one of the few best teams if you're going to win a championship. So
For sure.
So as we, we'll get to some actual season preview and predictions and stuff later, that there have been a few roster things that have happened in between the Daryl pod and this one. Thank you again, Daryl, for spending so much time with us, even though I believe the entire thing was a setup to soften everybody before he cut Isaiah Joe and Charles Bassey. Yep. So the Sixers cut Isaiah Joe and Charles Bassey, which leaves them...
It's always... Anytime... I keep forgetting this. Every time it's like, oh, is it going to be this guy or this guy? It's both. It's always going to be both.
Right.
It's going to be neither. This is just going to end this way. And how can I keep falling for it? How can I keep believing that it's a choice when it's out? It's always going to be like flexibility.
Yeah. So it leaves them... Derek wrote a thing about why it was more important to cut Joe than Furk, and it's a contractual thing that leaves them with more flexibility under the hard cap.
The hard cap.
If you think it's a competition between those two, like if you're thinking about it, that's one of the reasons why it does it. Isaiah Joe signs with the Oklahoma City Thunder to a deal that I don't. We keep seeing multi-year deal, but who knows what that actually means, right? So
the hard cap is, we talk about the apron. It's Derek wearing an apron, cooking in the kitchen. And with the hard cap, it's Derek with the sledgehammer, looking mad.
It's always Derek doing something.
That's right.
So do you, obviously, and we'll get to the other things. The other thing that happened is that Paul Reed's salary was guaranteed through the year, which they didn't have to do until January. So it was nice that they did now.
They knew we needed it.
Yep.
Just pandering.
It was a pander.
All right, the sickos are sad about Bassey and Joe. Just guarantee Paul's contract was fine.
Yeah, it cost us what? $500,000. Who cares?
We're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah. So is it? We obviously get very attached to these players, the younger prospects. It's part of our DNA. It's part of the DNA of the pod. I think part of the fan base that has evolved is always just assuming that these guys would be good if they can play. I think we were all on the same page about Bassey in general, in that he will be a functional big in the NBA for a while, and that he can play. He's probably not going to be anything special. Isaiah Joe is the sort of player that we all assume will be good if he plays more, though you have to wonder about a team who sees him every day and decides that is not the case. So when you're thinking about it, because obviously you believed in Isaiah Joe quite a bit, and obviously I think we would all like to see him stick around. How do you balance thinking about, well, this guy can shoot, he's good, I see it, with the fact that the team looks at him every day and says, you know what, it's actually, there's a better chance it's not there than it is? Or do you think that isn't the case? That isn't the case with the decision, that it was more about flexibility?
Well, I definitely think it was more about flexibility. I think if they could choose to have a 16th roster spot open, if there was a world where they could do that and keep Isaiah Joe and have one roster spot of flexibility and not worry about the hard cap, I think they would. Mm-hmm. I think he's a very useful player. I'm more confident that Charles Bassey is a rotation NBA player than I am with Isaiah Joe. Just the situation of the Sixers roster and how I think Bassey can only play one position. I think B-Ball Paul can only play one position. By the way, B-Ball Paul's Twitter handle is still B-Ball Paul. So until he changes that, I'm not gonna not.
It's a fun nickname. It's not insulting, and it was his. It's not like we made it up on our own.
That's right.
So,
but there's just less of a spot for Bassey here, as we talked about, and it's pretty obvious. But I feel very confident that as as he continues to grow, like he's a really good rebounder. He's athletic. He's an absolute lob threat, screen and roll guy. Like he's going to be good. He's going to be totally fine. He is the like prototypical backup center that I've been looking for years, that the Sixers have been like, what about this guy who was washed up 5 years ago? Like this is just he's a regular backup center. He's going to find his place somewhere, and he should. Isaiah Joe is just more obviously like flexible as far as he can. There's more positions on the wing. Shooting is always a necessity. There's more minutes available there. And the fact that he never like grabbed them and took them for himself is indicative of something. I'm a little bummed, especially even just my regular like prospect humping self. He did have a great summer league, and it felt like there was a step being taken, which you know, as far as you got to hold on to the guys that are too good for summer league, and you feel like, okay, this is the year where they break through. And I just think that there just wasn't a spot for him. It's a bummer that they couldn't take on summer league if they thought like, okay, we're probably not going to have room for him, whatever. It's a bummer that they couldn't get something for him, second round pick, future something. It seems like there would have been. It seems like if depending on what the multi-year deal is, yeah, we'll see what the market would have been like for him or whatever. But I just think like he didn't earn it fully himself. He probably should have gotten more opportunities on a team that needs shooting, but I think they deferred, and Doc probably deferred to like guys he trusts, never trusted him. I believe in him being a like 7th, 8th man in the NBA, and especially he'll play more on Thunder, so that's good. But I definitely don't think I fall in between. I don't just trust the Sixers blindly and go like, well, they saw him every day, so like they're making the right call. Like I don't trust that that's 100% correct, but also I don't think they're making some like massively grave mistake. I just get that there wasn't necessarily minutes for him. They did value like staying under the hard cap so that they could make. It's not just to like save money or anything. It's so that like in a trade
They can
over
take
the course
back
of the
more.
season, they can take back a little bit more money. In addition to signing a 15th guy just wherever it happens. So like it just gives them a little bit more flexibility than, and I don't mind that, because you can use the two-way spots to cycle through them and find like, if guys get hurt, you can find a rotation player on a two-way, just like fill in as the 9th or 10th person. Whereas like if you solidify yourself to Isaiah Joe now, you're a little bit your hands are tied a little bit.
The one thing that I think is worth referencing in all that you said there is that it was one thing that Hinkie said back in the day, but another thing about the process itself that I don't think ever really gets talked about that much is he said the hardest thing to find and most valuable for young players is NBA minutes, right? And we talk a lot about them losing to get high draft picks, but the commitment to using the other roster spots to give players minutes, to give them a chance to be good, is something that I think we talked about then, but doesn't really get looked at. And you wonder about players who are rotation NBA players now, you know, the Robert Covingtons and the TJ McConnells of the world, but even somebody like
carved out a career.
What's that?
Jakar carved out a career.
And even like somebody like Jeremy Grant, who like obviously was he second round pick or was he first? Yeah, a second round pick. Like if he doesn't have that time with the Sixers, who knows if he's the player that he is today, you know, if he doesn't get those minutes. So
just making an argument for Jonah Bolden coming 3 or 4 years late. That's it.
We'll get to Thybulle in a second. Before we do, the official realtor of the process is Adam Ksebe, Ksebe. They call him the czar of the Delaware beaches. That's what they call him. I don't know who calls him that, but I just nicknamed him the czar of the Delaware beaches. Ksebe's team is based out of Long and Foster and Bethany Beach. And, you know, now that people are able to do more remote work, the idea of living in a place that is relaxing and nice is more attractive. And if you're going to buy a home in a shore town, you don't want to go to Jersey where the what's it called? The taxes are sky high. You want to go to Delaware. The Delaware beaches have so much to offer, right? Rehoboth and Bethany and Lewis, all those places. And if you want one of those homes, Adam Ksebe is who you want to go to. As well, they have all of Delaware covered, all of Maryland covered. So if you want to buy or sell a house in either of those places, also even though not licensed in PA or New York, New Jersey, doesn't mean he can't help you. He helped me. So if you want to buy or sell a house in any of those states, what I want you to do is go to Ksebe first, call him or text him, 302-864-8643. That is 302-864-8643, or email adam@processrealtor.com, and he will find you the perfect realtor for your situation. He will interview them. That's what he did. He will talk to them until he finds the right one for you. The last few years have been a crazy time to buy a home. You need somebody in your corner who knows what they're doing, and Ksebe is that dude. His team is that team. Again, the name is spelled Ksebe. The number is 302-864-8643, or adam@processrealtor.com. In all of the, agent-fed rumor reports that happen about players, this one from Chris Haynes is probably one of my favorite of all time about Matisse Thybulle. The tweet, which is also related in the story: with deadline looming, Philadelphia 76ers and representatives for elite defensive guard Matisse Thybulle have recently engaged in brief discussions on a potential rookie scale contract extension, leaked sources tell Yahoo Sports. Like, I just love the agent going to Chris Haynes and saying, hey, can you put out there that we're negotiating with the Sixers? And Chris Haynes going, yeah, you close? And he's like, well, we did talk about it. Chris Haynes like, well, how much did you talk about it? It's like, well, I called them. And they said they weren't really interested. They hung up. Like, this is the first time I've ever seen brief discussions specifically noted.
Yeah, they're walking by in a hallway and like, hey, my contract's up soon. Yep.
It sure is.
Yep.
It sure is. Yep. Anyway, I think it's unlikely that they extend him, because I think the only way that you do it if you're the Sixers is if you do it incredibly team friendly. That makes it more likely that he's traded. And if you're his agent, I don't know if you can sell to him at this point that that's the best move for him, that free agency is probably the best move, which I guess it makes it slightly less likely that he's traded. I don't know. But this doesn't seem like a, hey, I'm likely to sign this deal sort of report.
Yes. And I don't know if they were to sign him to the extension when they could trade him. But I do think that something about, the Matisse, like, how he's valued around the league compared to how he is, potentially not in the rotation on this team.
Yeah.
I think there's a real possibility that, especially with Melton there and Daniel House there, like, that he's just not in the regular rotation. And like, that will become known in a couple days, like if he's not in the rotation, which kind of gives the Sixers less leverage in a trade. Like, I offered, I'm trying to, in like my fantasy league, when you try to trade somebody, you're like, that you like value, quote unquote, you're like, let me just pop them in my flex real quick. Let me just pop in my flex of that. Like, oh yeah, he's starting Terry McLaurin. So he thinks Terry McLaurin is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just pop him in there really quickly and make it seem like it. If all of a sudden Matisse is not playing in the game, then they're gonna be like, oh yeah, we should not have to trade that as much for him. Like, that is, I think, part of the, it's like very rudimentary, but I think that there's a level to that of like, oh, this guy's not in the rotation, so like, what the fuck, where do they get off asking for like a first round pick or whatever? Right.
By the way, on an expiring deal,
right? And I think that is a concern with some teams trying to trade for him, is that if you trade for him on the last year of his deal, that means you are signing up for signing him to whatever he gets this offseason.
For sure.
Otherwise, you're just letting him walk. So I do wonder if this leak is a, hey, we're really considering signing him, because I do think like if they sign him now, they probably couldn't trade him till what, like mid-December or mid-January or something.
No, if it's an extension, couldn't they? Somebody text Sixers Adam or Derek.
Yeah, get him on there.
Yeah,
but if that's the case, I do think this is maybe a, does somebody want like a hyper unique defensive wing before the season, like in the next day or two, to try to trade him before they find out that he's not in our rotation. So I wonder if that was purpose of the leak, or if the purpose of this is they are going to extend him for something that's like in the middle of the road, like let's say like I don't know, 440 or something.
I still think that's too much.
It might be for
Yeah.
sure. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but just finding like what would be like the middle of the road. Like Jordan Poole just got 414. That's insane. But he's not going to get 480. So at least on this team, at least now. So I don't know. I don't know what it would look like. But I think that a big roadblock is the looming contract that he has to get, and maybe that is making clear to everybody that like they're not getting as many offers for him as they would like, or the kind of package that they would like.
I do want to harken back to I love harkening now and again. Harken back to the Dario days where it started to become a thing where it was like, you got to trade him before you have to pay him. They're going to have to pay him too much. And one thing I thought then, and that I do think now, is like, well, no, you probably don't have to pay him that much. I guess I know it only takes one. And when you're being, when somebody, I assume Thybulle would be restricted, I assume. When you're in that, you don't want to not get anything for him and be in that situation. But I always thought about Dario, like, who's paying Dario a lot of money? And I think the same thing about Thybulle, though I guess I answered my own question in that it only takes one team to make it difficult for you, in that case. So here we are. We sit 2 days before the start of the season. The Sixers open the season in Boston.
Opening the season to a city that has vibes not seen in over a decade, at least as far as like citywide.
Yeah, I also wonder, like if it benefits the Sixers that, NLCS game one is during the Sixers game on Tuesday night. Like they are not going to be, given where the Eagles are, assuming that they continue on that path, just thinking about the city in general. The Eagles continue on this path. The Phillies are at least have another week and a half worth of baseball to play. The Sixers are not going to be under any sort of citywide microscope for a little while. I think you could almost confidently say that they're not going to be much of a focus until 2023. All that said, they are a focus for us.
Yeah, which means we get the microscope.
Yeah. They don't get to escape the microscope.
Shining a little magnifying glass. Me and you just have their hands. It's like frying George Niang's little skin.
I was looking at, I'm trying to remember what the DraftKings over-under for wins was, but I want to give you some over-unders for the team, for some of the players. We'll say what we think is going to happen. I think the DraftKings over-under was like 49.5. I'm setting it higher. I'm setting the Sixers over-under for wins this season at 52.5. And I wonder where you come down on that.
That's fair. I would never bet a Sixers over-under just because I'm too invested in it. You know what I mean? I try to avoid any Philadelphia player on my fantasy team at any point. Like, it's too close. It hurts too bad when it doesn't work out. But if I had to guess, I feel like it's an over. I feel like it's an over. I feel like the team is good. I feel like there's continuity from year to year. There is no great and I'm jinxing Daryl as I'm saying this. There's no great controversy happening right now. No sword is like hanging over their head waiting to drop. Like, it's just they have a bunch of good players. They have a bunch of high-end players. They have a player getting better. All the stories out of camp are good. They have some veteran, championship equity mentality, bullshit, whatever. Like, it's all. They
got some boats.
They got everybody. Yeah, I mean, they went out and got like 7 guys who are willing to get a loose ball. And I said loose ball on the podcast, Daryl, but it's also like they were lacking in athleticism, like so bad. And they're
the slowest team in history.
The slowest team in history, and also just couldn't jump, couldn't do anything. So they've adjusted that in some sense. Paul added 50 inches to his vertical.
By the way, they are at DraftKings. It's 50.5, which I'm not. I think 50.5 is an easy over.
I would say it's an easy over. I think they're just going to be. We'll get to the playoffs when we get to the playoffs, but I think this is a good team, and if everybody stays healthy or healthy enough, then they should hit that over. They should be one of the best teams in the East.
These are my over-unders, by the way, not the DraftKings over-unders. I feel like, sort of like live betting the Sixers, I think I know better than the book does, so I'm sending them at different numbers.
Wow.
Maxey points, 18.5 per game, over or under?
I'll say over.
Yeah, I'll say over as well.
I think there's a real chance that Maxey averages more points than Harden this year.
I think it's possible. I think the thing that will have to happen is the one thing that Harden has always done is dominated the ball in a pretty obvious way. I think his ball domination for Maxey to get to like 20 points a game or something, it's just like I personally, if Harden plays, I'm not talking about skill-wise, if Harden plays sort of the way that he's played in the past, I think it will be tough for Maxey to get there, especially with Embiid on the team as well. But if Harden really does approach this season in a different way, and we see some specific Maxey possessions while Harden is on the floor, I think he can get above it. It's, I don't know, he'll be right around there, but I would go over as well.
Yeah, if Maxey is like 19-4 and Harden is like 18-13, then I'm thrilled.
13.
Would love it.
Jesus. Well, okay, so I set the Harden assists at 8.7 over.
I think that's a clear over. 13 is obviously high, but I think there's no reason why he shouldn't finish in double figures, and especially in the world where I'm assuming Maxey has more points, then Harden should be distributing a lot.
From Sixers Adam about trading Thybulle. They'd technically be allowed to trade him, but it would be almost impossible when a player signed an extension that hasn't kicked in yet. The poison pill rule comes into play. So I think what happens is the one of the years ends up costing the team a lot more than it actually costs them. So
salary cap guy on call.
Yep. I would go over as well. Games played from Joel Embiid, 64.5.
I'm going to say under, and I'm going to be fine with it.
I'm going to go over. I think he's going to set a record for personal games played this year.
What's his most? Like 66?
Something like that, yeah. Let me look.
Will be great. It's not about the regular season, let us assume, and the fact that they have
68 last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
The fact that he's now two capable backup centers, one of whom is like the ultimate innings eater in Montrezl Harrell, in addition to PJ in a pinch. I don't think he needs to. I don't think he needs to play more than that. I think if there's a knee that you're worried about, or like a foot or anything, like something going on, or the thumb needs a break, like I think we should give it to him. I think we should keep the eye on the prize.
I would like to see that. What I'm hoping for is that comes more in the way of fewer minutes rather than fewer games. But we'll see.
See, I kind of disagree with that. I think the way that the players talk about it is, if you're going to make me play, then I might as well play and get the win. And if I'm not going to play, if you're going to just like try to restrict me with the minutes, then it's like just don't play me then.
Well, hopefully they're so good in the regular season, he can take a lot of fucking fourth
I would love
off.
both. Like that's like be up by like 18 in the fourth, and he can take him out with like 4 or 5 minutes left, or just never put him back in with like after he goes out for his like 8-minute rest or whatever. Like that would be great. That would be ideal. But also like, some back-to-backs, he doesn't need to be there. Let him stay home. He's got a kid. He's got to take care of his kid. Let him stay home a couple times. That'd be nice. By the way, very cool that it's very cool. This is pandering, pandering, and I wouldn't say 101, but maybe like 301. All the Sixers going to
the Phillies
games, and get Embiid there, Niang there, Harden tweeting about it, Maxey going crazy, Maxey and Gritty getting a picture together. Just like this is we're in like the center of the hurricane, the eye of the hurricane for pandering.
I do love that everyone's like, such a great week of Philly sports. Phillies advance, Eagles playing the Cowboys, Flyers won, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Are you including that one thing with the other things? Like, God bless the Flyers. But the fucking hockey regular season just starts one day and ends fucking 3 years later every year. It's like there's no need for hockey to have already begun with as late as they play. But my final individual over under for you is something we discussed: minutes per game for PJ Tucker, over under 29.3 minutes per game.
Begging for the under. We'll cut off a digit for the under. Especially PJ, he's not in the regular season so foundational to winning that you gotta have him out there. He's gonna be helpful, he'll be nice, but like the team is deep enough where PJ Tucker should not in the regular season be playing over 30 minutes a game. So I'm gonna say under and hope that that's right.
I think he's gonna average like fucking 37 minutes a game.
Just ride that car like a rental car into the fucking dirt.
Well, like even
grounded down to the axles.
Why do they need to play him at center in the fucking preseason? Like,
just to give it a taste. I don't mind it. Give me a taste.
I don't know, man. I think definitely. Big Barker Dog Beds, longtime sponsor of the Ricky. Important product. If you have a dog, is actually an important product. Go to bigbarker.com/Ricky. Once again, bigbarker.com/Ricky. It's important because your dog's health is important, and it's important because this is the only bed that is made considering your dog's health. That they went to experts to engineer the bed to support your dog's joints to make your dog healthier for longer. And that's not just for older dogs. It's not just for big dogs, because this sort of thing happens when the dog is younger. When a dog is sleeping on a bed, how supportive that bed is for the dog is incredibly important. And the simple fact is most of these beds that you see in pet stores and the internet, they don't consider that at all. You can see the difference when you see a picture of a Big Barker and you see a dog laying on it. You can see the difference when you feel it, when you take it out of the box. It's made more sturdy. It is made more supportive. It's just a better product. Your job as a dog owner is to keep your dog happy and healthy for as long as possible. That dog, like Rebel, for me, love my dog, shows you so much love. Like, oh, the dog is so fucking excited to see you all the time. Is so good. You know, if you're sick, it can tell. It lays next to you, watches games with you that it probably doesn't want to watch just because it loves you. The only thing that you could do is make sure that dog is happy and healthy. Bigbarker.com/Ricky is where you go for the Big Barker dog bed and the processed pup patches. Once you get it, you put your dog on the bed, you send us a picture, we put them in the processed pup gallery, send it to rightstoRickySanchez@gmail.com. It's just better, proven by Penn Vet and dog after dog after dog that we've seen enjoying their Big Barker. There is a 10-year warranty. It's more expensive, but it lasts longer and it's better. That's the fact. 10-year warranty. The foam doesn't flatten or they replace it for free. 1-year at-home trial. If you don't like it, if dog doesn't like it, not only will they give you full refund, they'll pay for the shipping. It's handmade in the USA. Big Barker dog beds.
That's me trying to do Zach Lowe. There it is. I'm with Donovan this weekend, which is nice. My parents' dog.
Oh yeah.
He's closing on 14. Still bouncy.
There you go.
You know, losing a little luster behind the eyes, but still bouncy, still moving well. Just like my dad. Losing a little bit if you look at his face, but the athleticism remains.
It's funny. I see, like, I think about it when I see, like, when Rebel jumps up when he's on our bed or something, he jumps off, he just fucking flies off it. He runs down the stairs, like, I'll slide into the wall. And I'm like, I can't stop him from doing those things. Mm-hmm. So the least I can do is make sure he's sleeping on the right bed. All right. Couple more things before we get to the actual predictions. Games played for the following Sixers players after the All-Star break for the Sixers. Matisse Thybulle, over or under 0.5 games?
I'll say under.
I will say under as well. Furkan Korkmaz, 0.5 games.
I'll say under.
I'm going to go with over. And my final, Tobias Harris, 0.5 games, over or under?
Over.
I'm going over as well. So here we are. We look at the Sixers season. Their best team in the process era, certainly their deepest team in the process era. I think
especially going into a season, yeah.
Going into a season, yes. You could make the argument for the Butler Redick team
Right.
to be more talented on the top end. I think you could make that argument, but
Yes.
I think
But
that would
no depth there. I think, was it Zach who asked us who was like the three
yes,
highest minutes bench players in that team, and it was interesting.
yeah. So certainly deepest, which I think you could also argue means best. Mike, in the NBA picture, I'll ask you for Eastern Conference winner, Western Conference winner, NBA title winner. The Sixers, like if you could sum up what you believe will happen in their season, obviously we have no idea what you believe will happen in their season in a paragraph, what do you think happens? What do you expect out of these Sixers?
I expect them to be like a capable, competent, normal team that switches sometimes, that holds up at least holds up a little bit better than they had in the past without their best player on the floor, that can score a bunch of points quickly and defend against anybody because they have the defenders to do it now.
I think they're going to win 5 games.
Yeah.
I think they will be a regular season juggernaut. We did talk to Daryl. I asked him about, which I thought was an interesting answer because the result, I had asked him about a growing divide between regular season success and postseason success. And he said that his intuition is that is correct, but the numbers don't really bear that out. I do think that this team is specifically set up to be really good during the regular season, assuming average expected health. I cannot get there with believing in them as a title contender because of, when we were talking to Zach, who's been very optimistic about the Sixers, I said, all right, I want you to make the argument why James Harden will be like dependable in big games in the playoffs. And he was like, I can't. And I was like, well, then any Sixers prediction who can't get there, if you're predicting something like that, is faulty. I just can't get there with Harden. I would love to be wrong. I think it would be nice if Maxey becomes that person, though I think, without seeing it, I don't know that that's going to happen. I haven't seen that already. And everything that I've seen already leads me to believe that they will end up losing in the second round, I think with a puncher's chance of getting to the conference finals. But I can't get to them as like a real title contender given what I've seen out of him and how important he is. I know you and a lot of people have said, well, they don't need him to be this. But I think, and I agree with you in the regular season, but I just don't agree in the playoffs. And I'm not buying a lesser James Harden as a title level primary perimeter guy is where I sit with the Sixers this year.
Yeah, I think that's entirely reasonable to think. I think they'll be good in the regular season. Juggernaut, I don't know that I would say that. I think they'll be good. I think they'll win games. I think they'll be good. 50, 54, 55 is quite good.
It's incredible.
But until they do it in the playoffs, until Joel Embiid does what, Harden has his issues, obviously, but Embiid also needs to become like Giannis or Jokic in the playoffs and just be like, not fucking losing. Thank you. Let me throw 42 and 18 at you, and you're not going to stop me. And I'm making the right play every time. I'm getting fouled. If you double me, I'm kicking it out. If you double me, sometimes I'm still getting fouled and getting to the line. Or I'm kicking it out to like now a plethora of shooters that can also defend on the other end. So like that, it just needs to be, we need to see it. And he's been good in the playoffs, but he hasn't been entirely healthy. I think a lot of it has been fluky. I think if you get elbowed in the face, that's not being injury prone. It's not like your face has a different sort of like shape than someone else's does. And it's like, that means that you're just whatever. It's just like some shit happens sometimes. Life is like that. So keep taking care of your body. Avoid some fluky injuries. Doc can be better about not putting him in position sometimes to get injured. So give me a healthy MB going to the playoffs. I'm tired of having this conversation. And yeah, I think that Harden's not going to become Ricky Rubio. If there's less of him needing to do all of it, if there's less focus on him from the defense, and Maxey keeps taking a step forward, like Tobias is capable in a pinch here and there to at least give them like a spurt where Harden doesn't need to do everything. They're a good team. They're a deep team. Embiid should be the best player in the league. Maxey is ascending. If this is a healthy Harden where he has the most help that he's had in his career since Oklahoma City, basically, then that should be enough. Then they should be able to do what the Phillies are doing and get to the goddamn conference finals.
And by the way, I agree with you on Embiid. We've talked about it a lot of times. I think he needs, even if they don't get to the conference finals, like at some point we need to see that sort of thing in the playoffs. Hey, they lost, but he had 42 and 18.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he just needs to do it. If he wants to be considered in that group has those games, and
totally.
He doesn't have enough of those.
And he just he's obviously one of the gods of plus minus, and they're so good when he's on the court, and they're so useless when he's off the ball. But he just can't be center Kyle Lowry. He has to love Kyle Lowry, very helpful plus minus for his whole career. But Embiid has to take the fuck over and not be actually, even though he was, 7 of 18 in a game 6 or something with a plus minus plus 8, and they were minus 97 when he was off the court. He has to still show it. It has to be you are producing. You're not just helpful when you're on the court. You are the center of gravity when you're on the court. You're doing everything. And that's not a slander of Kyle Lowry. He's just not an MVP candidate. And Embiid is an MVP candidate. He should be. He should have won one already. He has to take this team and fucking win a goddamn championship.
Well, and by the way, one thing you could say, I know this sounds completely unfair, but if you go back to that plus 97 when he's on the court, minus whatever when he's off, if it went to plus 107, they may have won the
totally.
Fucking series.
Totally, yes.
You know what I'm
Sometimes
saying?
You gotta be the guy,
Yeah.
Jokic isn't gonna be I hope Zeke Naji it carries the team when I'm off the court. It's just gotta be, you gotta be the guy. That comes with the responsibility. I'm not looking at Daniel House, who I'm expecting a nice year from, and being you got to be the guy, Daniel House.
Right.
I'm begging him to not think that about himself. Embiid has to be he has to just take the fuck over and make the right play and outsmart the defense and take the right shots, bait them into shit, drive them insane. It has to be you. It has to be you. Maxey's gonna help, Harden's gonna help, Tobias gonna help, the PJ's gonna help, the depth is gonna be good and necessary, and you can swap out bodies, and when injuries happen, they're going to be able to recover from it. But it's got to be Joel Embiid.
I was looking at the 538 does a thing where they basically project how much the player is going to be worth, and it gives them a category: rotation player, really good rotation player, MVP candidate, blah blah blah. I thought it was funny for Daniel House. It had scrub.
I think that might be looking at maybe all of last year, but when he was with Utah, he was good. He was helpful. He was a helpful player.
Well, and I don't know if, and this is the difference between being an eye test guy and an analytics guy. Do the analytics consider that Daniel House, if you need him in I don't know, sort of a bubble situation, if you're having sex with somebody and that will get you kicked out, whether he would be the sort of guy that would take that?
Yeah, fall guy.
Fall guy for sex.
Scrub / fall guy for sex.
We'll get to I want to get to the Ben Simmons quotes. I'm sorry, I'm never going to let it go. It's as long as he exists, we're going to talk about it. Before we do, I want to read you this email from number 293, the 293rd person to buy an engagement ring from LL Pavorsky Jewelers, who's a Ricky listener. Working with LL to purchase an engagement ring was an absolute treat. As a Sixers season ticket holder and avid listener to Ricky, when it was time to buy a ring, I knew I had to go to LL as I could trust him with the biggest event of my life. Going into the process, I had no clue what I was looking at. Lee and I exchanged 50 plus emails and had numerous calls. He made me feel comfortable throughout. I can only imagine Lee rolling his eyes every time he got an email from him. And then the biggest hurdle came the day before I was supposed to go into a shop. I live in Richmond, Virginia. I came down with COVID and was not able to go in person. Even so, we were able to find the perfect ring, close the deal over FaceTime. I knew I picked the right jeweler at the end of the call when he showed me pictures of him with cork mouths and deep cut processor choo-choo manual bomb. I recently proposed this week while vacationing in Italy, and the ring is an absolute rim smasher. My new fiance loves it and is the talk of the town with friends and family. Funny enough, when we landed back in the States after our trip, we were having lunch in the Boston airport during our transfer, and 6 lovely ladies next to us called out the ring and were in awe. There it is. And it is signed LL, scribbled out, Brian. I'm just kidding. There it is. Everyone who buys a ring from LL Pavorsky feels like that. As he mentioned, I think we're up to 294 rings purchased by Ricky listeners.
I heard it's more.
You heard it's more?
Mm-hmm.
Really? What's the number?
I think I heard 297.
Really? Well, I'm
close.
sure LL's watching. What's the number, LL? Text me. He's been at 707 Walnut for over 30 years. Still there. If you want an engagement ring, you got to make an appointment. Make an appointment so he can spend the right amount of time for you, focus on you. 215-627-2252 or email him, lee@llpavorsky.com, or tweet at him at @llpavorsky. Support of our charities, Providence Animal Center and Matisse Community Fridge, LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
I just can't let it go. You did call it the Licky
I did?
instead of the Ricky.
Wow.
Earlier. You
Well, that
corrected
sounds like a
yourself, but I
t-shirt.
heard it, and now I'm not going to stop thinking about it. I just thought I saw LL to talk the other day to start talking about wedding bands.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he's the best, man.
Yeah.
He's the best. There's nobody better, and he
Oh.
is
There's. I knew he was watching. 298. We're at.
298 now.
Yes.
Okay, so it
Yeah.
was 297 when I saw the other day. 298. Something happened in between, which is great. He really is the best. We love him, and there's nobody better. And he is also not only is he a great guy, but he's also very, very good at what he does.
Absolutely. Incredible what he does. It's important. It's important. You can't just be a good guy.
Yeah.
That'll get you only so far in life. Well, I guess some general managers gets you pretty far in life.
Yeah,
Not
good.
all the way.
Yeah, to remain nameless.
So Nick Friedel is a reporter, the Nets reporter for ESPN. It seems like he is specifically on the Ben Simmons beat, in that I think like his last 4 stories were about Ben Simmons. Thank you, Nick Friedel. You're doing the Lord's work. He had a Q&A with Ben, and there were a few things that were, I thought, interesting. The first thing is Ben's normal sort of deflection with a lot of curse words. The question from Nick: what do you do when people are like, Ben can't shoot or Ben's not going to go to the line? Simmons says, they're going to say that regardless. Even if I hit a shot, what are they going to say? I still can't. Fuck, I can't make everybody happy, you know? That's like saying Giannis, can Giannis shoot? Can he? Nick replies, not in the beginning, but now he's better. Yeah, better, but what is it? It's not taking as many shots as people want me to. Is it not hitting every shot? Fans are always going to say something, and it's probably like, they're like, yo, I can get in his head by doing this because this has always been something that people have spoken about. But at the same time, people say, Ben can make great plays. So, ... Just the mental gymnastics of saying that, like, if he could shoot, people would say that he still can't shoot. Mm-hmm. And comparing him to Giannis, a person known for, like, working hard and trying to become better at it and has become better at it. Like, I just, like, I beg Ben Simmons to get help. Like, this is crazy, right? I mean, it's the same thing. It's just like the amount of deflection is amazing to me.
Yeah, I mean, he's just on the argument circuit right now.
Yeah.
He's trying to, like, out logic people. He's going to, like, he's begging people to be like protesting his appearance on like Liberty University or whatever the fuck, and being like, actually, you're wrong to be doing this. And it's just
Right.
like, what do you do? Just, like, play basketball, get better, keep working, stop trying to straw man an argument. Like,
Yeah.
it'd be nice if you were a better shooter. Yeah, it'd be nice if you went, like, actually hard at the rim and weren't, like, shying away from contact. It'd be nice if you were a better foul shooter so that you could play in the ends of games. Like, it'd be nice if you developed a better handle and can get to the rim and, like, beat your man off the dribble, not just, like, run by them in transition. Like, there's very clearly parts of your game that can improve as you are having these arguments with
Nobody.
imaginary people.
Yeah.
I'm sure some real people for sure. Like obviously some people are like dumb about it, but like no one is saying the things that he thinks that everyone is saying, and he's trying to like get them into a debate. He's ready to like Ted Cruz debate him, and it's just like, buddy, like it's fine. It's fine. Just play and actually shoot the shots that you want to shoot, and then we can be like, hey, here's why you're not as good.
He in 4 preseason games he made 1 free throw.
Yeah.
He has 6'10", incredibly athletic, and a point guard. And then in the final game he fouled out in 13 minutes, and he said he was laughing about it. It was interesting to see Kyrie Irving's quotes about it. It was sort of like the way I was reading it, I'm already over answering questions about this thing. It was like, yeah, some of the calls were questionable, but like he wasn't as focused as he needs to be, and we could have used the time on the court together. I wonder how that is going to evolve. All right, 2 more sections. Why do you think there was so much ire directed toward you? Because people know what I can do and what I'm capable of. I believe that's what it is. Like if I was somebody who wasn't capable of doing certain things, I don't think people would be on my ass as much, and I don't mind it.
If you weren't in the NBA, then people probably wouldn't be talking about it. That's probably right. No, I think that's right.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And then finally, have you talked to Joel Embiid yet? Simmons. I don't talk to Joe. We never really spoke. You guys had a lot of success when you were there. How would you describe that relationship now? I don't think there was really a relationship there. Like in terms of a friendship, you can try as hard as you want to be close to somebody, to be their friend, whatever it is, but everyone is different as people. So for me, it's never personal. I don't have any anger or hate toward him. He is who he is, and I am who I am, and we've got our personal lives, and work is basketball. So in that moment, my goal is to win, and I got to win with Joe. He's a great player. We just didn't get it done.
Yeah, that's fine.
I do think we never really spoke, and there was never a relationship there, is something that is interesting to say, you know, like I think we all would have guessed that, but like to say it publicly at this point, I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I think we never really spoke meant we never really spoke since I read it. We never really spoke since the issue. Since
right. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
There was never relationships there. It was just like, yeah, we were teammates and we did it, but we're never like very close. And I think that's what, you know, all the stories and all the stuff have been hinting about for a long time, is that they were, you know, there was times when they started to get a little closer and like that kind of worked, but like they just didn't vibe. There's like, which is fine. And teams, and plenty of teams win when their best players are not like best friends. But I'm really happy to not have to hear about these stories anymore.
Well, you know, one thing I always said is they don't have to be friends, but they either have to be good together. They either have to complement each other on the court or have a relationship, or the tough times will be too much for them to handle. And I think that ended up, you know, being the case, is that there was never anything between the two of them. You know, like they were good when they were on the court together, but I think you would have to really stretch to say that they were good together, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of it comes down to like both of their weaknesses. Like Ben's have obviously a ton more weaknesses than Joel. And we just talked about them, but like Joel also just like not really getting good enough as a post passer and figuring some stuff out. And like, you know, he turned himself into a fine 3-point shooter and something you're okay with him doing, you know, and sometimes wanting him to do more of, but you know, there was never, the balance was never right. It just didn't feel, it felt like, you know, 5 years ago in their first and second years, it was like, of course they can get better. Of course they can improve. Of course they can like find more ways to coexist on the court together. But because primarily Ben never improved as a player on the offensive end, it was just like, well, if you're just standing there in the way, then yeah, they're not going to be able to do it. And they didn't.
We had a few good questions in the Lorenzo Brown mailbag, and then we'll wrap it up. You can get to us by sending us an email, rightstoRickySanchez@gmail.com, or a voicemail at 833-LickFace. That is 833-LickFace. This email comes from Blade Shield. From his basketball question If Maxey is growing in our hearts with both his level of play and infectious positive attitude, he is awesome to watch and couldn't be more likable. My question has a different answer for everyone, so I'd like to hear each of your answers. At what point in your heart and mind do you make the change from Embiid to Maxey? When does Maxey take this spotlight in your heart away from Embiid and is the first player you talk about when it comes from the Sixers? This is not an easy transition, and very few teams have the opportunity to go through it, so we should consider ourselves lucky, but it will be a bit of an emotional transition that will be harder for some. Thoughts? The answer for me is never. Actually.
Yeah, never. I think I think also like you just don't, it's kind of a false choice. Like you don't have to pick one. It's Embiid is like Maxey is like, newer and younger and more like ostensibly fun and a different kind of skill set. But that's the benefit of having big guy and little guy, is that it's a perfect fit. They complement each other. Big guy can reach things, little guy can scoot around. It's the perfect kind of star pairing. I love big guy, little guy.
I think part of the question is like there's very few teams that you can see where the star drifts at, like plays for the team long enough to drift out of their prime to have somebody else being the best player on the team. Like the way that the Spurs did, and it's so rare that it's even hard to imagine it, like where it actually happened. Even somewhere like Miami, where Dwayne Wade, they signed LeBron. Like he was already better when he joined the team. So to start from this point and end up and no matter how much history at least you and I have with Maxey, there could be a person who becomes a fan of the team now. That's different. It'll never be as much history as we have with Embiid. So it would be tough in my heart and in my mind to think the Sixers are Maxey's team, not Embiid's team.
I think the only way I think about this is when it's like same position, when it's like what they tried to do with like Evan Turner and Andre Iguodala, and what like kind of happened in Toronto with like Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet. It's just like if there's a takeover of like, okay, I'm ceding some ball handling duties or I'm ceding some like primary wing or whatever activities to this person, then that's one thing. If like Steph, Jordan Poole, I don't know how much they're paying Jordan Poole, like they believe in him a lot, so. But like those kinds of things, I think Embiid and Maxey are so different, obviously, that they complement each other really nicely, and we'll be able to play together for a long time. I think as good as Maxey is getting, he's never going to be as good as Joel on the defensive end. Smash cut to me like 3 years from now being like, Maxey's the best defender of all time. Like he's just continues to get better, but not at this point. That's unforeseen. That doesn't seem possible. But I mean, I love them both. We feel very lucky, and I feel like they're going to complement each other for many years to come.
Next email comes from Tyler, another Maxey question. Basketball question. Seeing the leaps Maxey has taken over the last 3 years and how vital guard play is to the team's success, would it behoove the Sixers to center their offense more around Maxey than Embiid, switching the pecking order to Maxey 1, Embiid 2, Harden 3? Taking some of the offensive burden off Embiid could allow him to expend more energy on defense, where he's been hit and miss the last couple of seasons due to the load he carries on the offensive end. I don't think Maxey is ready yet for that, in my opinion. Could be, but I don't think so.
I mean, if he starts every game off 3 for 3 from beyond, then
that's a good point.
Give it to him. But yeah, I mean, I think I wouldn't mind, because of how deep the team is, because of how they're now more athletic, they're now more guys that can shoot and defend. Like Embiid shouldn't have to lead the league in scoring this year. He has plenty of guys that can take the load off and make other things happen. I would love. My biggest thing is if the possession is geared around an Embiid post up, let's get it to him earlier.
Yep.
So that he has more time to operate, can kick it out, and he can get the ball back. I would love the ball not to stick as much as it has in years past. And part of that, my optimism there is that there's continuity, and there's like these guys know each other. These guys have a better feel for where they're going to be. And if Harden is willing to not do the Houston Harden stand, ISO for 15 seconds type of thing, then I think that there's a real chance they can do it. And, last year, no one could make an entry pass. It's happened for a number of years, but last year was really the culmination of just like they were unable to get him the ball because of how bad it was, and because of how bad they were at passing and physicality, and just being like, wilted over the other defense. The defense is like length and physicality and stuff. So I want to see them move the ball faster and get it to whoever has the best shot. Like I feel like Embiid is going to be the center of the offense. Maxey is good enough and quick enough and can shoot off the catch and get to the rim, like all things where he's going to be vital to that. But my biggest thing would be less like centering it and more like get into your sets quicker and move the ball faster and have a better feel for each other and know where each other's going to be. And I think that they're capable of doing that this year.
And I do agree with giving him less. I'd rather see him score 24.5 points than 31. You know, allowing him to be a more impactful defensively with less responsibility on offense, I think is a good idea. And non-basketball question: what is your favorite book you've ever read?
Loaded question, a lot of good stuff. I really like the book that I read that I keep thinking about the most, or at least recently, is this book called Disappearing Earth, which is not about climate change at all. It's just a random, like, different perspectives book of I'm gonna bungle the phrase, but it's these like people in Russia that are more indigenous, not like I'm like it's a thing that I'm totally unfamiliar with, so it felt like really special to me to read it and not know and everything. But it was like kind of like a mystery a little bit, but more about like an examination of like humanity and stuff, and it was really cool. I thought it was dope.
I would say my favorite book is probably Killing Yourself to Live by Chuck Klosterman. I like all of Chuck's books. As a recent book, I always have trouble with fiction. Somehow this one hit me. My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. I thought was really interesting. And even audiobooks I have trouble getting through if they're fiction, but I really enjoyed that one. But I love the entire Chuck catalog. And final question comes from Ricardo. What do you think is most probable this year? Maxey most improved player, Maxey all-star, Maxey all NBA team selection, Maxey is leading scorer on the Sixers.
I think most improved is interesting. Most improved is like the most, I mean, I guess coach of the year is also, but like the most narrative based thing. And it always feels like they're a year behind. Like somebody has gotten better and they're like only acknowledging it in the following year because maybe something happened in the playoffs the previous year that they didn't count. Like I think Anthony Edwards right now is leading most improved odds.
Let me look.
Because I'm filling out. I'm in like a betting thing with my buddies that do.
Here we go.
Here's to fill out the whole thing.
Most improved player at DraftKings, Anthony Edwards and Tyrese Maxey are co-favorites at plus 1,100. So
yeah, and it feels like they'd be a little late to Maxey, but I think they hesitate to give it to people too early in their careers, but they kind of always do, whether it's their second or third year.
Who won it last year?
Who won it last year?
Yeah, I can't even remember. It's crazy, right?
I'm forgetting.
I know Hero won 6 man, but he didn't win most improved.
Ja
Morant.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense. CJ pops up, says Ja, leaves. Yeah, I mean, I think following that, I always think it's weird when they give it to like
already good players.
Yeah.
It's
just a little bit like, I don't know. But I guess that we've talked about this before. The hardest jump to make is like from like being very good to being like very great.
Mm-hmm.
And Ja made it last year. So maybe Ant is the solid one. If Maxey outscores Harden and like takes over as like the second most important player in this team, then I think that he has a really good shot at it. I wouldn't be surprised, especially if Harden got hurt, that if Maxey made an all-star team and the Sixers are that high up. It might be like one more year away, but somewhere between most improved and an all-star team.
Yeah, I think all-star would be the most likely. I think it's impossible that he's the leading scorer on the Sixers. Not impossible, but like really unlikely.
Joe would have to be hurt. Which would be sad.
And all NBA, there's a lot of good guards, man. Would be pretty tough. I think all-star is probably the leader. And the other hard thing with most improved is you don't like. There's so much with MVP. There's a lot you don't know, but you all actually do know most improved. Like who the fuck? Like who knows? Got really good. So
and often so much of most improved, not with Ja, and probably not with Ant or Maxey this year. So much of most improved in years past is like, oh, you've got more of an opportunity this year.
For sure.
There was just like an area for you to succeed more than you had in the past.
CJ, do you have a prediction? We didn't ask you your prediction for Sixers this year. He's not even. There he is. Sixers prediction? Oh, his mic is muted.
Someone in the chat said like 48 wins and a second round exit, and I feel like I'd rather just not make the playoffs than that happen again. So that's kind of heavy on my mind. I mean, obviously, the best team we've had in a while, but I don't know.
Might as well just predict that they're going to win the finals. That'd just be the hero of the pod.
I'll be the one to claim it. I actually do have a parlay with the Union, the Eagles, the Phillies, and the Sixers all winning a championship.
Oh wow!
What are the odds there?
I bet 7 cents on it, and the payout is like $2,000. So I'm feeling good.
All right. If the entire city of Philadelphia burns down from joy, then CJ wins $2,000.
Fair trade, sounds like to me. All right, this is the last.
Wait, what is our prediction?
Oh, for the Sixers?
Yeah,
I said 55 wins, second round exit. They have to prove otherwise. They don't. I don't think they deserve a prediction above that. Personally, I think that's a very generous prediction. To be honest.
Yes. In a world where our predictions hold weight, and affect them in any way, then I agree with your line of thinking that they don't deserve it.
But that's also what I mean is you would have to I believe you would have to expect to see something from their two best players that we have not yet seen. And I am not ready to just say, oh, at like 34 and 29 or whatever, we're just going to see that. I just it seems like wishful thinking, and I guess it could happen, but I don't think it's likely.
Yeah. Do I want to be the hero of the podcast?
Well, I mean,
do I want to be the special boy?
Sort
of my role.
Sometimes. Yeah. Well, you're optimistic, you know.
I will say that on the heels of a real insult from the Phillies by making the conference finals before they did.
Yeah.
Despite having never made the playoffs in 11 years and doing everything wrong. I will say the Sixers get to the conference finals and lose to the Bucks.
Okay, that's fair. Oh, and who do you think wins the West, wins the East, wins the championship? I'm going to go, or you first.
I think I have Milwaukee, Denver.
Okay.
And I'll for fun say Denver. And then when Michael Porter Jr. sucks and keeps them from winning, I will happily blame him. Well,
I believe the thing that will keep them from winning will be their center, who is not a good enough defensive player to win the championship. I'm going to pick the Bucks to win the title, but the West is really weird.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't buy the Nuggets. It's almost impossible to buy the Suns. The Warriors are in a weird place to buy right now. Mm-hmm. Clippers are a totally fake team. The Mavericks, I think Luka will win MVP or something, but I don't think they're a finals team. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. It's like, I feel like I'm throwing a dart. I'll say the Warriors because fucking dumb and easy, but like I really have no idea. It seems like it is the most open the NBA has ever been, probably in both conferences. Yeah,
especially in the West, you could make an argument for like 7 teams, maybe even 8 teams that you could say like, okay, this team is capable of making the conference finals.
Yeah, you would say Warriors, Clippers, Suns, Nuggets, Mavericks, Grizzlies. I mean, Timberwolves, I think, is a stretch, but
you can make the argument.
Get there. Yeah. It's funny. The Lakers are not on my list. but.
Yeah, I would have the Pelicans over the Lakers as a possibility for sure. Yeah. But then you can add the Lakers, just be like, well, LeBron and AD, and maybe they figure something out in the trade or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. Have a great season. Enjoy the Phillies.
Have a great season. We'll see you in a year.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a year. Don't worry about it. It's all going to be fine. You guys got it from here.
Oh, man. All right. We'll talk to you next time. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah. Big face.